Question 32 under the name of Deputy Ruth Coppinger.
I want to ask the Minister if you or any of your officials have met with any persons or organisations with an interest in greyhound welfare regarding the export of greyhounds to the Macau region in China. Now, I'm sure the Minister is aware of the concerns around this. Your predecessor was written to in April by 3 organisations, the ISPCA, the Irish Blue Cross and Dogs Trust, very well-renowned animal welfare organisations, concerned particularly in light of 3 greyhounds which were exported to there.
Minister.
Thanks, Cahill. Dealing with this question. Just as was stated in the reply on the 17th of May last, the position is that once appropriate animal health and welfare certification requirements are met, dogs, including greyhounds, may be exported internationally. Exporters are also required to comply with the provisions of the Council Regulation EC No. 1 of 2005 on the protection of animals during transport. I should emphasise that while a very small number of greyhounds have been exported to Macau earlier this year, it is nevertheless imperative to ensure that the transport of greyhounds over long distances is conducted in a manner in which safeguards the welfare of the animals being transported and minimises the risk of transmitting infectious diseases. Bord na Gán is responsible for the governance, regulation and development of the greyhound industry in the Republic, as well as being the well-being of greyhounds. The Board has developed a comprehensive code of practice on the welfare of greyhounds which sets out specific standards that all individuals engaged in the care and management of registered greyhounds are expected to meet. The code emphasises that owners and keepers take full responsibility for the physical and social well-being of greyhounds in line with best welfare practice. Officials from the Department met on the 23rd of May with the representatives of Bord na Gán and the welfare members of the International Greyhound Forum, represented by the ISPCA and Dogs Trust here in Ireland, to consider issues surrounding the export of greyhounds. At that meeting, officials emphasised that the well-being of greyhounds, including their physical and social environment, is at the core of Ireland's greyhound industry, and the need for the industry to comply with the Welfare Act, Greyhounds Act 2011 and associated code of practice, which sets out clearly specific standards that all engaged in the care management are expected to meet. Bord na Gán has reiterated its advice to all owners involved in the export of greyhounds to only export to destinations that provide the expected level of care and management as defined under the Board's own code of practice. And I fully endorse this view. My colleague, there's one last important point. My colleague, Minister Creed, met with representatives again of the ISPCA on the 29th of June last, and on the specific issue of Macau, the ISPCA recalled the positive engagement with the Greyhound Forum on this issue, and I understand that subsequent this trade has ceased, and I'm confident that the advice being offered to Bord na Gán to the owners was taken on board.
Come back in. Thank you, Minister. Deputy Coppinger.
Minister, when you say you're satisfied the trade has ceased, does that mean that the Department is going to introduce an actual ban on the export of greyhounds to China? Because that is really the only safeguard that animal welfare organisations are willing to accept. Any exports are ill-advised and a massive step backwards in having a well-regulated greyhound industry to countries known to have a really poor record on animal welfare. In the case of Macau and this racetrack that the greyhounds went to, this is one man who's followed it. The track is old and narrow. The length of the track isn't good for animals. So many accidents happen. They kill the dogs and they need more to replace them. Dogs cannot come from China as they must be quarantined for rabies. And this is impossible because of the lack of space. And it goes on to talk about the amount of deaths, about 30 a month in this racetrack. I don't think anyone in Ireland would support the idea that we would just allow greyhounds be exported there. So, Minister, that's the kind of reassurance that people want.
Thank you, Deputy Coppinger.
Just on that, exports have ceased because none of the airlines, let's be honest, are agreeing to carry. If the Department here tried to just ban exports to Macau, they would end up going there indirectly through another jurisdiction if that was the desired will of the people who wanted to engage in the exports. I appreciate everything you say about the welfare, but there is so much we can do, and pressure was brought to bear And international pressure was brought to bear by the greyhound welfare people internationally, and the airlines took it on board, and I think everybody should accept that. So if there isn't a mode of transport, they won't be going.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy, if you wish.
I think it is very good that airlines seem to have acted, and it was airlines in Britain, in fairness, from what I've read. It was in Heathrow, and not so much anything to do with your department, but that there was concerns about the mode of transport of the animals. I just wanted to ask you, Minister, there was an email that we received today, and there seemed to be a rumour or a hope, if you like, among people who watch animal welfare, that the department was going to agree legislative change in the Welfare of Greyhound Act and greyhounds industry to prevent exports of greyhounds to countries that don't have good welfare standards, and that this was something that people were hoping to hear an announcement about. I don't think that you're in a position to give that announcement, and I think that that's quite disappointing.
Thank you, Minister.
Well, very quickly, there is draft heads of bill being prepared for pre-legislative scrutiny. I can say that in the last Dáil, as Chair of the Agriculture Committee, we were hoping to have that for the pre-leg process. We're trying to, it's the Welfare of Greyhounds Act, new greyhound bill essentially, and we're trying to get that into the committee for the autumn session so that it can be enacted as soon as possible. I can't foresee or foretell what's going to be the conclusion of that at this stage.
Thank you, Minister. I now will move